Hey Mrs Schneider, this is my Criterion C submission. It's about my game. My game is called Taris because the planet which the game is set on is called Taris. Okay, so we'll start the game. We'll first introduce the game, then the problems of the game. And so we pops up and hey, welcome back, we finally made it. It's the robot talking to our main character Finley. And so he's a scientist from Earth. It is set in 200 years after now, and human has so the human civilization has reached its full potential. So it doesn't grow in technology and stuff. So our scientists have been sent to this planet to discover the truth of evolution, because it is believed that they found traits of life on this planet. So we'll skip the text box, and the robot suggests us to look over to the pond here. And we'll jump in and we'll enter the water using our technology. Okay, so now we're in the water, and I'm recording using my headphone, but I added water background music in it. And now we discovered this. Oh, who's this? And so he turns on the translator and we talk to it. And it suggests its fellow creatures to kill us. But we said, oh no, we're friendly. And we have to prove it by finding a friend, like another creature in the tribe. But he's probably lost somewhere. And he said he's lost on the other side of this mountain. I set the speed of the character up so it just runs faster, so it doesn't. So this video doesn't go for an hour. But there's some great distance to travel, and yeah. And then we walk to the other side of the mountain, and look what we found. Our friend is here, and we walk close to it, and it said press Q to complete the mission. So we press Q and say, hey, thanks, man, found him, and now we trust you. And yeah, we walk to the ladder here. It says press E to swim back up. So we press E, and now we're back here. And we told the robot that we found life in the pond there. And then suddenly we heard an explosion from far away. And it's from the trees, seems like. So now we have to get to the trees. Okay, now we've got to this side where the explosion comes from, and we discovered a spacecraft and a huge robot, and it says press E to enter the spaceship. Press E, and now we're in the spaceship, and we're talking to this robot who looks exactly like the robot that we came with, and say, hey, did your spaceship just crash? He said, no, I make the sound so you can come. And then basically this robot told the main character that the Earth sent troops to this planet to take over the planet, and our character is really confused because he thought his mission is to discover the truth of evolution, but he's been tricked. And his real mission is just to see if there's life on this planet, and to report to Earth, and then the Earth will send troops to take over this planet and destroy the civilization. But he didn't understand why the Yearn's going to do it. So he asked about the Dark Forest theory. And basically, the Dark Forest theory is just a theory about how in the universe, in any civilization, let's see, a human race, discovered another civilization, our only choice is to destroy that civilization, because we don't. There's an equal chance of that civilization discovering us, but we don't know if when they discover us, they'll destroy us or not. So our only choice is to destroy any civilization that we discover, so we can survive in the universe. And we finished the conversation, and we're gonna go back into the waters to warn our friends. Okay, now we're back in the water, and we told our friends that you guys are in danger, so you gotta find some place to hide. And we heard some spaceship landings, so now we need to go back. Find our ladder, and we press E, we just spin back up, and then suddenly there's a million spaceship just landed, and here's the general standing here talking to us. It's called Hank, and basically we told the general asked us, where are the creatures? We need to go and kill them all. And then Finley, our doctor, said, oh no, I did not discover anything. It's probably a glitch in the robot who triggered a false alarm to warn Earth about any civilization. And eventually the general believed us and he left. And so our doctor saved the planet. And then we press E to complete your mission. And basically this end scene says what happens after the game. And 100 million years after the game, the creature on this Earth, on this planet, on Taris, they grew to a dominant civilization. And one day on their radar, discovered this planet called Earth. And this traces civilization on it. So they launched an interplanetary missile and destroyed everything on Earth and the human race. But what they didn't know is that 1,000 million years ago, they were saved by an Earth scientist. So that's the game. And now onto the problems of the game. And I'll just set its default. And as you can see, I created 8 scenes for this game, which is highly unnecessary. But I had to do it because there is a problem. As you can see, when we go back to each scene, the dialogue box pops up immediately after we enter the scene. And what I wanted to achieve before was that the dialogue box doesn't pop up until we approach the character. If we approach the character, then the dialogue box pops up and we have the conversation, and we leave, the dialogue box disappears. I couldn't do it. So right now, after I close the dialogue box, I can't create any new dialogue box. So I had to create 4 scenes of the same map so that different dialogue box can pop up every time. The second problem is that I couldn't get the physics to work on the characters. So if I bump into this robot, it just spins around weirdly, and I couldn't get it to work. So it's like the same in the water scenes. I couldn't get the NPC to work. Okay, so in the water, I wanted to achieve is that I get several of these creatures and just wander, like patrol around this area. But because the physics didn't work on these characters, so as soon as I put a rigid body or capsule collider on these, they would just drop through the ground, like drop through the terrain. So I can just put them in a fixed position. And so that is the third problem. And so now I'm going to teach you guys how to create a mini-map, like the one right here on the top right corner of the screen. It shows the position of the character. So create a new scene. And I'll go into the arts folder, but you can create it anywhere. And I'll just delete this. So we're going to create a render texture right here. I'm going to name it mini map texture. And now we're going to create a okay, we need to put a character in it. So I'll just go to standard assets, character, first create a terrain, and then I'll put the third person controller on it, and then I'll just put some trees in it so it shows that our location is moving. Put some trees here, maybe not here. Put some trees right here, and then we'll attach the main camera to the player, so we'll drag it into the third person controller so it follows the player. And we'll set the camera right here above the player. Okay, so now the mini map. We'll create another camera, not in the main camera. Close this. We'll create another camera, and then in UI we'll create a raw image, and before the render texture we just created, I'm going to drag it to texture in the raw image, and in the camera we're going to drag the texture in the target texture. And so the raw image, going to set it to 2D, and I'm just gonna drag the mini map to the top right corner, and we're just gonna drag it to the top right corner, and then we're gonna set the width and height. Gonna anchor it to the top right corner, and now in the camera, I'm gonna add a script. Call it mini map script. Okay, we already had that name. Could have called it mini camera script. And in there we're just gonna type some code. Mini camera script. Okay, we're gonna create a public variable, public with the type of game object. It's gonna call target, which is gonna be our player, and in the start we're gonna assign this target to game object dot find game object with a tag. The tag will be player, or whatever your tag the player has got. In this case, I'm going to set the player's tag to player, but to third person controller. We're going to set the tag to player. Go back to the script, and in update we're going to set game object. So with the lowercase, which means whatever object the script is attached to, we're going to set the position of this game object to vector 3 to the, so in the bracket we need to set an x, y, z position. The x position would be target dot transform dot position dot x, because it's going to move along with the character, and the y position is 10 above the player, and the z position is going to be the same as the player as well. Dot z. Okay, and then we need to set the angle dot transform dot Euler angles, also a new vector 3, and the x position is actually going to be 90, and the y positions are going to be target dot transform dot Euler angles dot y, and the z is going to be 0. Okay, now script is complete. Gonna go back and we're gonna test it out. Okay, and as you can see, it moves with the player. If we go to the trees, right now it's kind of unclear because it's white, but then if we go into the trees, you can see that the minimap moves with the player. Okay, and the last thing you need to pay attention to is that in the camera, you have to set the projection to orthographic, which means that if you set it in perspective, then if your terrain has if you went up like a high point in the terrain, then the camera won't go with the player, so your player will be above the camera, which you can't see the player anymore. So yeah, Mrs Schneider, that's my Criterion C submission. Hope you enjoyed it.